go Pearl Jam!
On behalf of all of us, I don't know what this means. I don't think it means anything. That's just how I feel.
How do you measure the impact of a band? Is it as simple as looking at the number of albums sold, number ones on the Billboard charts, Grammys, or other awards? In the digital age, record companies might point to various social media metrics, YouTube views, Spotify streams, and on and on and on. Yet the beauty of music is that it transcends simple ones and zeros. It's not black or white. It's not simply good or bad because some statistic says so. It's art. Linkin Park came out of the gate with their debut album, Hybrid Theory, the year 2001's best-selling album. On the surface, they were just another popular nu metal band, yet there was more than what initially met the eye. They weren't just angry metal bros, they were being vulnerable and singing about emotional subjects, preaching positivity, and as time went by, they transcended the nu metal genre. Their career was built on change and experimentation, and while it didn't always go over well, you can't argue with the impact they made as a quote-unquote metal band. Which leads me to ask the question, where does Linkin Park stand on the list of most impactful metal bands in history? In a time when spiky red hair, parachute jeans, puka shell necklaces, and yelling at your parents were all the rage,
break your fucking face tonight!
Came a genre of music so ridiculous, so easily mocked, yet so freaking popular, nu metal. The genre was never bigger than when in the year 2000, a ragtag group from Southern California, DJ record scratches, rapping, distorted guitars and all, released their debut album titled Hybrid Theory. In hindsight, the album is the high-water mark of the nu metal genre. It has since reached diamond status in the US, meaning it has sold more than 10 million units. 10 million freaking units in America alone. Only something other heavy bands like Metallica and Van Halen have been able to accomplish. Of course, the songs on Hybrid Theory were extremely catchy, but what made Linkin Park stand out was Chester Bennington's ability to capture the emotion and turmoil of life in his singing and screaming. It created a profound and somber energy to the material. The lyrics in a track like In the End exemplify why Linkin Park were more than just nu metal meatheads and were able to capture a wider audience.
What's so odd about the song is it's almost talking about these things and saying, like, I don't have any answers. Because usually a song isn't about having no answers, right? Especially as a young person, that's just how I felt. Like, that's how we all felt. We just didn't know what to make of things. And I think, in a sense, like, that's still what goes on today. It's a timeless and universal thing.
Their follow-up, Meteora, was much of the same musically and was able to curb the sophomore curse, selling almost as much. It continued with heavy riff-roaring bangers, but captured more of Chester's world of pain and loneliness. It was more accessible and relatable to a generation of teenagers feeling misunderstood and lost in the world, and also featured their first steps away from traditional metal.
Breaking the Habit, for example, Mike was writing that song and really wanted it to be something, and like kind of like went back to like thinking, well, maybe I'll just make it like an instrumental. And then like one day out of nowhere, he brought it in. He's like, dude, check out this melody and check out these lyrics. And I sang it and I was like, this is where I want the band to go because this is so different.
4 years later, Linkin Park took their first big leap, abandoning their nu metal sound with Minute to Midnight. The album was more of a straight rock record than anything, even stepping away from heavy distorted guitar and electronic work that you saw with the group's first two albums.
There were no rap parts at all. Like, I just put it down as singing because that's what I thought sounded better. Like, I'd try and put rap stuff on it, and I thought it sounded cheesy, it sounded cliche.
This was super producer Rick Rubin's first collaboration with the band, and it was his guidance that helped remove any doubt in the band members' minds over the new direction.
We were trying to stay in that frame of mind that Rick talked to us about in the beginning, was don't think about what it should sound like, just think about what you like and what sounds good to you.
2010's A Thousand Suns saw them take on another experiment, this time towards the art rock realm. Some people referenced Radiohead, calling it Linkin Park's more experimental, OK Computer type album. The complete departure still sold very well, but alienated some of their old fans.
You have to have the kind of sense of willingness to just go with something that's different and weird and kind of put yourself out there in order to stand behind that.
2012's Living Things was like an electronically charged version of Hybrid Theory with the balladry of Minutes to Midnight, but lacked the substance of both those albums. The Hunting Party was a full reboot back to metal, but was their first record to not debut at number 1, and finally 2017's One More Light saw them fully embrace being in the pop realm. At the end of the day, I think a lot of people write Linkin Park off unfairly. Usually it comes down to people's perceptions of them as a nu metal band, or for their later work not sounding anything like their nu metal roots. But I think that speaks to their impact. They touched on so many different genres, and therefore such a wide audience. Of course, they're gonna ruffle feathers in the process.
Because you can't give a band who just had the biggest album on the planet a good review. Like, you have to pick apart every stupid little thing that they've ever said or done and tell them why they don't deserve to be as big as their band is.
So where does Linkin Park sit in the pantheon of metal bands? Well, like I said, it's hard to pinpoint people's perceptions of the band, but let's look at something you can measure instead. Hybrid Theory was the last metal album, and basically last rock album even, to take home the title as the year's best-selling record in the US. If you put Hybrid Theory into the broader genre of rock, it's still in the top 10 albums sold worldwide of all time. And depending what you call metal, you could say it's the second best-selling metal album of all time, behind Metallica's Black Album. For best-selling artists of all time, again, hard rock, metal, whatever you want to call it, it's dominated by those same bands. Led Zeppelin's at the top, followed by AC/DC, Metallica, and then Linkin Park quite a ways down the list at about 100 million. But I mean, come on, they're still in the top 60 best-selling artists/bands of any genre of all time, ahead of maybe more critically acclaimed metal bands like Iron Maiden or even the Godfathers themselves and Black Sabbath. If you take a look at modern metrics like Spotify streams, head-to-head Linkin Park versus Metallica, Linkin Park's in the end almost doubles Metallica's most streamed song, Enter Sandman. On YouTube, the video for Linkin Park's Numb far surpasses Metallica's most viewed and Nothing Else Matters, and the same goes for Facebook followers as well. And something to keep in mind is that Linkin Park's heyday was in the era of Napster and the beginning of the decline for people buying physical CDs and whatnot. Regardless, something you can't argue against is that more than most metal bands, Linkin Park served as an introduction to a whole new world of heavy and alternative music. For some, they were a gateway band from pop to metal. They made it all right to make aggressive music, but to stay true to your emotional self, to still be vulnerable and honest. And that is what you call impact. It's tough as an artist when you've established yourself. On one hand, you know what pleases the fans that got you here in the first place. On the other, you want to push yourself creatively and scratch that artistic itch. As a band, they were committed to evolving their sound, and they reached millions of people looking for an outlet to their anger or pain. People who were trying to make sense of their own life. They refused to be labeled one-dimensional and would rather challenge themselves as musicians. They have an intensely loyal fan base, but took a lot of shit over the years too. As time moves on, though, more and more people have started to appreciate the impact Linkin Park made. Or as Chester wrote in One More Light, "We saw brilliance when the world was asleep. There are things that we can have, but can't keep."